If you've spent any time in cinema recently, you may have noticed something peculiar. Hollywood has this habit of turning every profession into something extraordinary. Take archaeology, for example. When was the last time you saw an archaeologist not raiding a tomb and barely escaping a trapdoor with a priceless artifact in hand? And don't even get me started on your average hacker. Sure, they're more likely to be boosting points on a video game than hacking into government servers. But perhaps one of the most misrepresented careers of all is the assassin. Hollywood loves them. From Jason Bourne to John Wick, they make it look like a glamorous job. But let's be real, assassins aren't on LinkedIn, and their jobs are about as far from a well-paid desk job as you can get. Still, despite the fantasy, the real story of assassination is as fascinating as it is terrifying. So, how did we go from Hollywood's slick assassins to the shadowy figures who lurked in the mountains of the Middle East almost 1,000 years ago? Imagine a time, nearly 1,000 years ago, when the Middle East was a land of empires, shifting power, and bloodshed. The story starts in the late 11th century, during the crumbling days of the Fatimid Caliphate. The Caliphate was a powerhouse, ruling much of North Africa and the Middle East. But even the mightiest empires have their internal conflicts. In this case, two princes, Nizar and his younger brother Al-Mustali, fought for control. The older prince, Nizar, was passed over for the throne, and after a violent struggle, he was executed. His followers, now desperate and without a leader, fled eastward, finding refuge in the mountains of Persia, modern-day Iran. And this, my friends, is where the legend begins. Here in the shadows of the Seljuk Empire, they formed a new religious sect, the Nizari Ismailis, led by a man whose name would send chills through history, Hassan-i-Saba. Now, you'd think these followers, living in exile, would hide quietly in their mountain retreats, right? Wrong. Hassan was about to turn the tables in a way no one could have predicted. The rise of the assassins. Hassan-i-Saba wasn't just a preacher, he was a strategist. And when he set his sights on the mighty Alamut Castle, he knew he was taking on the impossible. Imagine this, an impenetrable fortress sitting high above the land, surrounded by cliffs. The enemy garrison was strong, and yet Hassan somehow managed to do the unthinkable. He walked into the enemy's camp and told them, "This castle, this fortress, is mine now." It sounds like a scene straight out of a heist movie, but it worked. Hassan and his followers had spent years infiltrating the castle, slowly winning over its defenders, convincing them to join their cause. By the time the Seljuk lord realized what was happening, it was too late. Without shedding a drop of blood, Hassan took control of the castle. And from there, he set about building the most feared political and military force the Middle East had ever seen. Through sheer ingenuity and a deep understanding of the human psyche, Hassan didn't just survive, he thrived. He created the Fida'i, a band of highly trained assassins who were more than just killers. They were agents of fear. Their targets? The powerful, the influential, and the dangerous. And they had no qualms about eliminating anyone who posed a threat to their cause. From public assassinations to secretive strikes, these men became the ultimate political weapon. Imagine it. High-profile figures, executed in broad daylight, with a blade to the throat. And yet, their killers vanished into thin air, leaving only terror behind. But Hassan wasn't done. His real genius came when he decided that these assassins needed to infiltrate deeper than ever before, and he found a way to turn the very concept of death into a weapon. The assassins were feared, not only by their enemies but by everyone around them. Their training was rigorous, and the cost of failure was always death. But what made them different was their willingness to die. Many of the Fidai knew that when they took on a target, they were most likely walking to their death. And yet they walked with purpose. Some even leaped from high places, proving their loyalty without hesitation. They were trained to never flinch. But there's a dark twist to their story. You've heard the legend, haven't you? That the assassins took a drug called Hashish to fuel their bravery. That they were brainwashed by opium, driven to insanity to make them into mindless killing machines. And it's true, sort of. Historians now debate whether these stories were propaganda spread by their enemies to tarnish their name. And then, as the centuries passed, the Nizari order faced its greatest challenge: the Mongols. The Mongols were ruthless, unstoppable, and when they turned their attention to the assassins, there was no escaping them. One by one, the assassins' strongholds fell. Alamut Castle, their once impregnable fortress, was captured in 1256, and with it, the Order of Assassins met its end. Or did it? The truth is, the legacy of the assassins didn't die in the 13th century. Their descendants, the Nizari Ismailis, continue to thrive today. With over 15 million followers across the globe, their influence and culture are alive and well, though they've long since abandoned the shadowy world of political assassination. But the story of the assassins, their audacity, their cunning, and their incredible courage continues to captivate us today. Thank you for watching.